Okay, so erythritol. It's everywhere these days, right? Seems like everyone's trying to ditch sugar, and erythritol is like the new kid on the block. But what's the deal with this stuff? Is it actually good for you, or are we all just falling for clever marketing? That's what we're diving deep into today. We've got a ton of research to sift through, articles, studies, the whole 9 yards. By the end, you'll be the erythritol expert at your next dinner party, guaranteed.
You got it. I think there's so much confusion around alternative sweeteners, and erythritol definitely gets its fair share of attention. So yeah, let's break it down, see what the science actually says.
All right, so first things first. Erythritol, it's a sugar alcohol. But hold on, before you picture tiny margaritas in your iced tea, what does that even mean?
Right, it's not alcoholic at all. The name can be a bit misleading. Basically, it's a type of carbohydrate with a structure that's kind of like a hybrid between sugar and alcohol, but no, it won't get you tipsy.
Okay, good to know. So no need to worry about, like, failing a breathalyzer after a diet soda. But where does this stuff even come from? Is it, like, squeezed out of some exotic fruit?
Well, it does occur naturally in small amounts in some fruits and fermented foods, like pears and watermelon, even soy sauce. But the erythritol we see in most products is actually made through a commercial process, usually from fermented cornstarch.
Fermented cornstarch. Huh. So it's a bit more high-tech than just picking fruit off a tree.
Yeah, it's a bit more involved. Basically, they use enzymes to break down the cornstarch and then ferment it with yeast, which is what creates the erythritol. Then it goes through a few more steps to purify and crystallize it.
So it's not exactly plucked from nature then. But speaking of science and all, the FDA has given erythritol that GRAS label. Does that mean they just had a bunch of scientists taste testing it and giving it the thumbs up?
Not exactly. Generally recognized as safe means there's a pretty solid body of scientific evidence showing it's safe to eat, at least in reasonable amounts. They look at how the body processes it, any potential for toxicity, stuff like that.
Sounds like they did their due diligence. But, there are always two sides to every story. What about those long-term effects everyone's whispering about? Anything we should be worried about?
That's a really good question, and it's where things get a little more complicated. In terms of short-term effects, erythritol has been studied pretty extensively, and generally it seems to be safe. But when it comes to the long game, the research is still ongoing. There have been some recent studies that hint at a potential connection between high erythritol consumption and cardiovascular issues, but we need more research to really understand what's going on there and if there's a real cause and effect relationship.
Okay, so not totally worry-free then, but nothing definitive yet.
Yeah.
It's good to know there's still more to learn. But let's back up a bit. Why is everyone so obsessed with erythritol in the first place? It's not like it's the first sugar substitute to hit the shelves.
True, we've had plenty of those over the years. But erythritol has a few unique features that make it stand out. For starters, it's super low in calories. We're talking like 0.2 calories per gram. That's practically nothing compared to sugar, which packs a whopping 4 calories per gram.
That's a pretty big difference. So for people watching their weight, it's a no-brainer, right?
Definitely. And another major plus is that it doesn't raise blood sugar levels. So for folks with diabetes or anyone trying to manage their carb intake, it's a game changer. They can finally enjoy a little sweetness without sending their blood sugar on a roller coaster ride.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned it's a sugar alcohol earlier, but it doesn't have that, let's say, explosive reputation that some of its other sugar alcohol cousins do, right? No digestive distress.
You're right on the money. A lot of sugar alcohols are notorious for causing digestive issues, bloating, gas, the whole shebang. And that's because they're not fully absorbed in the small intestine. But erythritol is different. Most of it gets absorbed into the bloodstream and then just passes out of your body through urine. So basically, it bypasses that whole fermentation party in your gut that causes all the trouble.
Okay, so no need to stock up on antacids after dessert. That's good news. But I've noticed that erythritol often teams up with another sweetener, monk fruit. What's the reason for that dynamic duo?
Great question. Monk fruit extract is a natural sweetener that's intensely sweet. I'm talking 200 times sweeter than sugar. It comes from a melon that's native to Southeast Asia.
Wow, 200 times. That's insane. But there's got to be a catch, right? Like some weird aftertaste or something.
Wait. You're sharp. While monk fruit itself has a kind of unique flavor, some people describe it as licoricey. It can be a bit too much on its own, especially in larger amounts, and that's where erythritol comes in. It helps to round out the sweetness, smooth out any potential weirdness, and basically create a more balanced flavor profile that's closer to what we're used to with sugar.
So they're like the perfect partners in crime, the Batman and Robin of sweeteners?
Exactly. And there are more benefits to this dynamic duo. Both erythritol and monk fruit have a minimal impact on blood sugar levels. Monk fruit is naturally low glycemic, and we already talked about erythritol's benefits there. Plus, when you use them together, you need less erythritol overall, which could potentially minimize those digestive discomforts we talked about, even though those are less common with erythritol compared to other sugar alcohols.
So it's a win-win situation, fewer calories, happy blood sugar, and a happy gut. That's a pretty strong argument for Team Erythritol monk fruit.
It really is. And I think it's interesting to see this trend towards using different sweeteners together to really maximize their strengths and minimize any drawbacks. It's like they're creating a custom-designed sweetness experience.
Yeah, like they're fine-tuning it to be just right. And it makes you wonder, what other crazy combinations might we see in the future?
Exactly. The world of food science is always pushing boundaries, and this whole exploration of alternative sweeteners is just the beginning. It's an exciting journey of discovery, and who knows what delicious possibilities are waiting for us just around the corner. Something to ponder as you enjoy your next erythritol monk fruit sweetened treat.
I'll definitely drink or eat to that.